Okay, so we are on page 348. This is chapter 8 in section 4 of Derech HaShem. So let's see, the previous chapter talked about Avodah Hazmanis, right? The service of Hashem that happens seasonally, right? Seasonally. And these are all the holidays, and he taught us that every holiday there's a light that gets reintroduced, right? The same energy that was around at that time. Then he gave us this chapter, which was about the mitzvahs of the holidays, right? Not just the zmanim of the holidays, but the mitzvahs of the holidays. Okay? Now, again, I think you pointed out then, I want to point out again, though, that when we talk about, so meaning there are two ways to think about what exactly is a time, right? When we say today is the 15th of Nisan, let's say, what does that mean? What makes today the 15th of Nisan?
We'll make it.
What?
We'll make it.
So one is we are very frum, and we have accustomed to think that Jews sanctified time, and that, I mean, that's true. I'm not going to deny that, but that's not really true. Meaning, what really makes the time is that there's a full moon, right? That aligns with the sun being in some area, with the stars being in some other area. That really defines. Well, I don't know if it defines, but it's certainly the main kind of system of time telling, right? It just says in Parshas Bereshis, right? These are the luminaries, and they're going to be your timekeepers. Now, it happens to be so that's your mazel, that's your energy, right? Because Kodesh Baruch Hu, at least in his system, right? In his system, the stars are not just happens to be just some things that God created for no apparent reason. No, they are also messengers of Hashem's machine, of the system that Hashem set up, right? So that's your timepiece keeping. Now within that, Hashem says, you know what? You guys, the humans that are below time, you guys, I'm going to give you a special kind of power to tweak the system, to show that you really have parts of you that are above time, right? There's a system in place. That, right? Meaning, for example, today we're not Mekadesh the day. We don't do anything, right? The day is kind of Mekadesh by itself, right? So we don't have maybe that power, or maybe we do because we have the calendar, the Hillel. I don't know. Okay, these are all things that I don't fully understand. But basically, it's when certainly at the time that the Beis Hamikdash stood, and we had Sanhedrin, we had these witnesses, the whole system. So then our Chacham had the power to show that koyach, to break free from the time, right? But I think it's like a slight override or a slight adjustment in the system that we have. I don't think that is the sole, I mean, I'm not sure. I mean, I'm not really sure. But what I'm saying is that there's these two parts of what makes the time, right? There's a human input, right, the based in input, and there's also the nature input, the planetary input, but it's not the clock input, right? Or the clock perhaps only is an extension of a human input, because we set the clock, and we tell the clock that today is the 15th of Nisan, right? But it's not that the clock makes the date. Right. We set the clock to let us know when the date happens, but it's the luminaries within nature then set the date, right? So when we're saying that a certain time comes with that energy, once again, what makes now that we're saying that it's not just telling us today is the 15th of Nisan, it's more saying to us that the 15th of Nisan comes with a certain energy, with a certain light that's going to come through it. That's because, so one way of saying it, you know why? That's because the arrangement of the luminaries in the sky are exactly the same way they were at the time of Yetzias Mitzrayim, right? So the same arrangement that gave the power to Yetzias Mitzrayim can now give the power to a Jew sitting at the Seder to be uplifted on the level of Yetzias Mitzrayim, right? Okay. Right? Mm-hmm. Or you could say, no, you are celebrating Seder and you're sitting by your table and you're doing mitzvahs hazmanim and you're eating matzah and you're not eating chametz. You are, with your actions, defining what the zman is. So the mitzvahs of the day are kind of, what's the word? Recalling that energy. Meaning maybe the luminaries set up by themselves wouldn't have been so spectacular. But together with the mitzvahs of the day, with your Mekadesh Yisrael V'Azmanim, together with you calling today Chag HaMatzos, right? Not just the regular 15th of Nisan, you defined the nature of the day, so then you bring out the magic of the day with your actions, right? So the answer is it's both, right? I'm assuming it's both, right? There is a certain element of potential that's set up by the natural phenomena in the picture, and then also now you have the ability to really bring out the full potential with your actions, with the mitzvahs hazmanim, and that's why possibly also why he divides this chapter into these two sections. There's a section that talks about mitzvahs hazmanim, right? The section called avodas hazmanim, the time where the focus is really on the calendar date. And there's another chapter, which is the one we're learning now, is b'mitzvahs hazmanim, that talks about the actual, mitzvahs that are connected to the energy of the day. Okay, fine. So now we get to, that brings us back to Yom Kippur, right? So, this is the letter of paragraph 5. Amnam inyan Yom Kippurim hu. The idea of Yom Kippur is, Hine hechin ha'odim baruch hu l'Yisrael Yom echad. HaKadosh Baruch Hu prepared for Klal Yisrael one day, sheboi tiyeh hatshuva kala lehiskabel, that on that day, tshuva will be easily accepted. Okay? Easily accepted. Okay? Is that okay? We should have done the other way around. We should have said, right, what would you say Yom Kippur? So, did he talk about Yom Kippur before?
Don't think so. I mean,
So, I just finished telling you that there's these two chapters. One talks about the nature of the day. The other one talks about the nature of the actions associated with the day, right? And that worked for Shofar. Rosh Hashanah was Yom Adin. Shofar was the mitzvah of the day. Hold on, let's go back for a second.
it's the same thing we got here. Get the day, get the action of doing tshuva.
Right, but it's quite interesting that there was no mention of Yom Kippur anywhere in the previous section. Nothing. Am I missing it? Let me just go back. In chapter 7, does he mention Yom Kippur at all? Right. So he does mention it in the introduction. Right, when he talks about the list of all the holidays in the level of level. Right. So again, avodah zman is himashin chayavnu bo b'zmanim yiduim. Right, the seasonal observances or periodic observances are what happens on special occasions. Uprotam, and here is the details. Right, there's Shabbos and its holiness, then the resting of the 10th day and its Inu Yov. Shvisas HaYom Tov Uktushosah, there's Yom Tov and its Kedusha, Choyle Shel Moed, then Hachametz HaMatzah at the time, Shofar at the time, Sukkot Lulav at the time, Rosh Chodesh, Chanukah, Purim. Good, and now we're going to explain. Right? So he mentions it over here. I don't think he brings it up again. Right? I don't think he brings it up again. But what you see even from the way he's saying it, right? Over here he focuses on the Shvisa Sa'asr, the resting of the 10th day, right? And the Inuyim of the 10th day, the fasting of the 10th day.
It doesn't mention the tshuva.
It doesn't mention the tshuva of the 10th day. Okay? So let's see a little more. Okay, so Heichin Odom Baruch Hu L'Yisrael Yom Echad. Hashem prepared for them one day, which is on this day, tshuva kalo lehiskabel. Tshuva will be easily accepted. So first of all, another important point to point out. We assume, because we assume, look, I did tshuva, obviously it's going to be accepted. What kind of a question is that? Hello? I'm like, God, they did tshuva. Like, what do you want from me already? Okay, so that's not necessarily how it goes. I mean, right? We see from the Chumash, from the Teichacha, from the Chukoisei, we see that Hashem, that they return, and Hashem says, sorry, not good enough. You know, and it's only after in the end, you know, okay, maybe. Right, okay? But anyway, so we got this one day that tshuva is easily accepted. And the sins are close to being erased. The hainu, that means l'sakin kol hakilkulim shenasal yideihem. What does it mean to erase sins? Right? It doesn't mean that I forgive you. It means more than that. He's saying it's to fix all of the destructive consequences of one's sin. And to remove all the darkness that was brought about, that was strengthened as a result of this sin. To return those people that are doing tshuva to the level of holiness of being close to Hashem. That they were distanced as a result of their sins. Okay? Sorry. So on this day there is this light. That through this light, this concept, or all these concepts, are fulfilled. However, this is the light that in order to receive it, the Jews have to keep, right, whatever they were commanded to keep on that day. Right? And what was the thing that they were commanded to keep? Specifically, the idea of inui, right? The fasting and the not washing and not wearing shoes, right? That these mitzvahs inui that we do on the Yom Kippur, that's a tanai. That's a condition. That's a condition which opens up the light of this day, right? The inuyim of this day is a condition to open up the light of this day. Because as a result of these inuyim, we are detaching ourselves completely from gufnius, right, from physicality, and we somewhat are raised to the level of malachim, of angels, right, and all the other details are connected to the details of this rectification. Fine. Okay, so it's not exactly like what we said. The mitzvah of the day is inui, right? The mitzvah of the day is inui, as it says in the Torah. The tshuva of the day, according to him, seems, listen, Hashem gave you this day to accept tshuva. What are you not going to do tshuva on that day? Like that doesn't make any sense, right? But the inui is the tanai that opens up the light of the day, right? And the light of the day is acceptance of tshuva, and immediately you get the tshuva in order for Hashem's, right? Okay, that's the calculus over here. Fine, okay, good. Yes, good, no? Yeah? Okay, moving on. Okay. All right, that's not like maybe, just saying it's not exactly possibly like Rabbeinu Yonah. Rabbeinu Yonah says that there is a mitzvah. It says in the pasuk Lifnei Hashem Titoharu that on this day, right? It says Ki b'yom hazeh yichaper aleichem, that Hashem atones you for this day, right? Ki b'yom hazeh Titoharu, that on this day you'll be purified. So Rabbeinu Yonah translates this pasuk as you shall be purified, and it's a commandment. It's a commandment that on this particular day you have a specific commandment to do tshuva in a different oifen, in a way of, this many, on every day you have a mitzvah to do tshuva, but there's many different levels of tshuva, right? You could do just, if a person, right, so for example, somebody was saying, I was just listening to a shir yesterday about being an aide. Let's say somebody calls you up to be a witness for a wedding, okay? That's a very, very hefty responsibility. Why is it a hefty responsibility? Because the witness of a wedding is not just somebody who reports who reports the action, they actually, or at least according to many opinions, they actually are, what's the word? They're making this, they're causing it to be, right? Which is why if the witnesses are not kosher, it's not because we don't trust them, it's because they're not kosher, they didn't create the wedding, whatever, chalois as we say, they didn't create this occurrence.
The dish is missing salt.
What? The dish is missing salt. It's more than the dish is missing salt. It's gone. The dish spoiled. There's no the salt. There would have been no problem. You could still eat. Over here, the dish without the witnesses, the whole dish is ruined, right? So, but there are many things that pass the witnesses, right? For example, let's say, can your brother be a witness at your wedding, right? The answer is no. Why not? Because is apostle a witness. What about, can somebody who's Mechal Shabbos be a witness at your wedding? No, that makes him apostle a witness. What if somebody, I don't know, listen, I believe I keep all commandments of the Torah, but the commandment about, I don't know, give me something that people don't usually keep. Let's say, I don't know. I don't think women are supposed to cover their hair. Okay, let's just throw out something like that. Okay, I just don't believe it. I think the rabbis made it up, or I don't know, or whatever, right? So that's possibly makes that person a pikaris, right? Even if a person denies b'shita some kind of an issue, so he could be apostle or witness. Now you don't know. He's a frum Jew. Let's say maybe his wife even covers her hair, because she has, she doesn't agree with him. She believes maybe it's a good thing, or maybe she doesn't because of social pressures. I don't know, whatever it is. But b'shita, he says whatever. Again, I'm just giving you an example. You can come up with your own example. So that person may be apostle aid. He's considered, let's say, mumar l'davar echad. He might be considered an apikaris for one thing. So he's apostle aid. You don't know about it, but he's apostle aid. And again, b'diavad, I don't know all the, thank God we have halacha. Halacha has a lot of safety, safety features, so to speak. The b'diavads are important. But my point is, so this particular shir that I was listening to, it was saying that it's good to do tshuva, right? That tshuva, even a hirhure tshuva, the Gemara says, even a thought of tshuva accomplishes something, and the person turns the person from a rasha to a tzaddik. So if somebody does even a thought of tshuva, that Hashem, I'm sorry for everything that I possibly could have done wrong. I regret it. I want to improve from now on. So even though there's still work to be done, he still has to do this is nothing. Well, it doesn't take much to think thoughts of tshuva. But at that moment, there is a cleansing that took place. Is that a cleansing? Now he's ready to Olam Haba, he's a tzaddik gomer? Of course not. He's got plenty of work to be done. But even a minor tshuva does something, right? So that's your regular mitzvah of tshuva. Comes Rabbeinu Yoina, at least this is the way the Pachad Yitzchak explains it. It's Kutner, is that b'yom hazeh titoharu means that on this day you shall be purified. Means you have a mitzvah on Yom Kippur to do a tshuva shlema, to keep digging in, so to speak, until you purify yourself. So the separate mitzvah of tshuva that's dedicated on Yom Kippur, right? He seems to be not saying that. He's just saying, listen, there's a tshuva that's just this day. Hashem said tshuva will be easily received, right? This is more like the lashon of the Rambam, right? That tshuva is good on any day, but the 10 days between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, that tshuva is very special. Obviously, Yom Kippur is the most special, right? So tshuva is not a separate mitzvah of the day. He doesn't sound like that. He's saying just Hashem is, he's got his open arms. So what are you going to do? You're not going to do tshuva on that day? Okay, that's it. Okay, moving on. So now we get to paragraph 6. So that's it for the holidays. So we weren't sure exactly last time. Were we sure? Why Chanukah and Purim interjected between?
Right, Pesach.
Right, it was Pesach Sukkos, then Chanukah and Purim, and then Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. So possibly we said maybe this is the Shavuos disappeared altogether. from this chapter, because there's no mitzvah. There's no mitzvah of the day of Shavuos. It's just a holiday, right? This is mitzvahs of the day, right? So over here, Chanukah and Purim interjected between. So maybe we said something mitzvah din, mitzvah rachman, whatever. I don't know. We had some possible. Okay, but anyways, moving on. V'hinei tzarich sheteda. You should know. Shemina tikunim hagedolim, the great tikunim, rectifications, sheberu haneviim liYisrael, that Nevi'im, the prophets, clarified for the Jews. Hoyo inyan hakriya b'Torah is the idea of reading of Torah. V'zenichel b'shtei bechinois, and this is kind of divided into two elements. Ha'achas kriya sefer HaTorah al HaSeder. One is reading the sefer Torah systematically from parsha to parsha ad tumoy until you complete the entire thing. V'choizer chalila al derech hazeh, and that's a ever revolving, so to speak, seder. It just continues. The cycle just continues to turn. Okay, so that's one tikkun. Just the idea of completing this the entire Chamisha Chumshei Torah in some cycle. Bias, the cycle is annual. Vashen is, and then there is a second bechina, a second aspect of this idea is kriyas parshiyos miyuchodim, reading of specific parshiyos bizmanim miyuchodim, on specific times. Okay, v'zeh, and the idea here is kehine sefer haTorah, that the Sefer Torah who klal mashanim serlon mimenu yisborach liyiseinu hoigim boy. That Sefer Torah is something that Hashem gave to us, and He says here, read this, right? Discuss this, learn this, read this, right? Shal yidei zeh, that as a result of us just reading the words of the Torah, timoshech lanu ha'orosa, we extract the light that's in the Torah. Right, Kamosha Zacharna B'Chelik Rishon that we mentioned in the first section, B'Chelik Zeh Gamkein, and then also in this section, Perek Sheni, in the second chapter. V'Hine Lekabel Ha'orazu, however, to receive this light from the Torah, B'Timidus, on continuous basis, Tiknu, so they were Mesakin, that right, the Nevi'im were Mesakin Sheniya Hoigim Boy, that we should read this, right, we should enunciate it, B'Makalaseinu, in our communities, Bitmidus ala seder, continuously in order. Right? So there's a whole thing about whether Kriyas Torah is an individual mitzvah or is it a communal mitzvah. Right? Is the mitzvah for the community to read it, or is the community for individual to read it? And simple reading over here sounds like it's a communal thing, right? Maybe, I'm not sure, that each individual has to read it in our gathering. I don't know. I'm not sure. Okay, but the communal aspect is obviously a requirement. So that's one. So they were misakin. What's the purpose of Kriyas Torah? The purpose of Kriyas Torah is to extract communally that basic light that Hashem presented to us. Right, to read the entire thing from start to finish, in order to get the full picture. Okay? Now, in addition to that, that is in addition, or besides the specific reading, that is right, I'm sorry, I read this wrong. That's in addition to specific reading of a specific individual, right? Meaning each one of us has a chelik in the Torah, so to speak, or each one of us has a separate mitzvah to learn the Torah. So the communal reading is besides the individual reading. Okay, that's understood. V'hina al yidei hakriya hatemidis hazois, as a result of this continual, constant reading, Masmid bono or hakdusha hazois, we also continuously integrate this light of this kedusha. Good. V'gam bezmanim hamiyuchodim, and also in specific times, appointed times, kifi in yonam, according to their energy, royesh nikra haparshiyos hanoigiyos linyonim hahem. It is proper that we should read parshiyos that are connected to the themes of the day, right? L'chazek ha'oras ha'yomim. This strengthens the light of the day, alidei koyach ha'torah, through the power of the Torah, which is the greatest force, the greatest power that we have, right? So again, going back to the original questions that we started with, is it the natural world that appoints the time, or is it us that bring out, right? Meaning the light is built into the nature, or is it us bringing out the light? And the answer is obviously it's a little bit of both. And so one of the ways that Chachamim were mesakin to bring out the light of the day is by reading the Torah that is connected to the light of the day. By us reading the Torah of each Yom Tov, we, in other words, strengthen the theme of that Yom Tov. We strengthen the light that we're able to reach within that Yom Tov. Okay, so obviously it's understood. So it's not just. So in other words, the reading of the Torah of each day defines the nature of the entire day and that enhances, brings out the nature of the entire day. Fine. Okay, so that's it. Now we're up to our last and final chapter in Derech HaShem. Okay. So now this is already chapter 9. This is talking about circumstantial observances, v'habrachos, right? Ha'avoda ha'mikris v'habrachos, right? So this is not something that on a regular basis, this is happenstance. If mitzvah comes along, you do it, right? And he weaves into this chapter brachos, right? Interestingly enough. So we'll have to see how that works out. I mean, there are different kinds of brachos. There are brachos that we say on a daily basis, right? Like, brachas hashachar are daily brachas, but those were included already in the previous chapters of Seder Hayom when we had a daily avodah. So the brachas that he's talking about over here are brachas you eat, right? When you eat, you make a bracha. When and you've satisfied your bench, right? So that's a circumstantial avodah. Okay, fine. So the question then really is, okay, so if it's okay, we understand that brachas are circumstantial, meaning you're talking about circumstantial observances, so it includes brachas. Why is brachas part of the title, right? You don't say in the previous one, the title is not b'mitzvahs hasmanim, v'hashofer v'halula v'hasuk, okay, b'mitzvahs hasmanim, whatever they are. Over here it's havodah b'hamikris, v'habrachas seems to be superfluous. So let's see what we can get from here. Okay, so Aleph. However, the circumstantial service to Hashem, they are in accordance to the happenings that occur, the occurrences that occur to people in their everyday lives, in whatever their station is in the world, right? Meaning it's understood that a doctor has his mitzvahs of circumstantial mitzvahs. A lawyer, an accountant has his mitzvahs that he has to deal with. Right? If you matzavim, it's not only in what occurs; it's also what we are. B'machleihem, but this could be in their eatings. B'malbushehem, in their dresses. In their attire, b'chol tzarcheihem ha'noshim, and all their human physical needs, v'yiskeihem ha'mediniyim, and their social interactions. Okay, so let's get into it. Just food, attire, physical needs, social interactions. Good. Food, attire, physical needs, social interactions. Food, attire, physical needs, social interactions. Are we missing anything? Does this include all of our... So, meaning there's us as individual, and then there are social interactions. Us as individual is divided into physical needs. I mean, food is also a physical need. Attire is also a physical need, right? So it's really, it should be divided into two aspects. It's my individual and my, right? Me for me, and me as part of a group, right? Okay, so let's see. Why did he single out specifically food and dress, as opposed to, and that's not included in all our other human needs? Okay, all right, keep going. And the general principle here is based on everything that we learned till now. There is nothing within the matters of the physical world. A law. What? I don't know. Chayk means he's translated over here as a process, a mikra, a circumstance, in whatever that can possibly occur. Meaning, just like he said before, that Hashem put a human being on this earth in order to rectify him in all the different ways, and since there are so many different elements of light and so many different elements of darkness, so therefore a person has to perfect himself on so many different levels, so therefore he has to go through so many different occurrences in his life, right? So therefore it's obvious that anything that happens to a person is connected to the purpose of why he's around, right? In order to achieve this goal of his existence, so all of these details of creation were necessary in their borders that they are transcribed in reality, right? So these occurrences that are non-daily, right? These are your specific, unique, right? This is where, in a certain sense, your unique rectification can come through these unique occurrences. It's a long sentence that basically says that they're just, there are many different levels and different divisions that he likes to spell out. Right? Okay. All of the commandments that were commanded were in all of these aspects there were commandments how to react in a certain situation. They should be able to set this particular occurrence on the good side. Right? In every circumstance, there's God's will, so to speak. Right? He calls it commandments, but that's what it means. In every circumstance, there's the good way to go about it, and then there is the not good way to go about it. So your job is to pick the good in every circumstance. When you then proceed to do these actions within the prescribed borders, right, limits of that action, then you will do them according to the good, and as a result you will produce, out of your carrying out this action is within its proper limits, you will produce toiv, goodness, v'tikun, and rectification. Right? Okay. V'im lo yishmeru, right? And if you don't observe these guidelines that Hashem set up for each situation, hine yishoru amasim tzadara, these deeds, these actions will remain on the side of bad. And so through this action, you will further expand the power of the tuma and the zuama. Right? And the darkness, and you will limit the great enlightenment, and you will create more hiding, right? Hiddenness. And as a result, all other consequences of evil that we have mentioned. In every certain situation, depending on that, that thing that you're carrying out, that was not appropriately circumscribed. Right? So just understand, right? So meaning a person is a real estate agent, he comes to show the house, right? And he knows that there is some flaw within this house, and he does not reveal it, right? So he did not carry out this action within the proper halachic guidance that he was supposed to carry it out. So therefore, instead of bringing more light and rectification as a result of that action, he brought more darkness. Okay. V'hayachas asher lo im ha'odam, and I should read it together, but okay. So he when it's not kept to its borders, v'hayachas asher lo im ha'odam. And also the relationship that he has with other people, and the part that he has within it to himself, besibuv in the overall cycle, the gilgul haklalish al-nimtzoyos, and the continual progress of the creation, hamizgalgalim, that continue to evolve, right? So in other words, every action was supposed to be a stepping stone towards perfection. And since the real estate agent did not reveal the truth, so therefore he prevented the idea of truth to be expressed in this world. So therefore he slowed down the process of the entire creation as it's moving towards total perfection. Right? That were on their way to be set in perfection. Right? I mean, again, we think about it. Every mitzvah is a brick, but it's like, we don't think about it how really, every time we do something wrong, like, we just put the brakes on the entire kind of enterprise. Okay. Pretty scary.
Right, they have to go there and rebuild it.
Okay, so now he's going to go into brachas. So now he's going to go into brachas, and that's going to be the end of it. V'hinei, I don't know if we should start this. We should save this for later, for next time already. Probably just save brachas for next time. But that just occurred to me though. Okay, it just occurred to me now. Fascinating that what's the first Masechta in Shas? Brachas. What's the last section of Derech HaShem? Okay. All right. Shkoyach.